Okay, I think that we can start. Okay, welcome to our webinar. I'm Lorenzo, and today, together with Lydia, we will talk about combining the voice of the customer with user testing. In a nutshell, from data to decisions. But first, let's take a step back. You might be wondering who are we in order to talk about user testing, voice of the customer, solicited feedback, unsolicited feedback, and so on. I'm Lorenzo Fanetti, and I'm Head of Sales and Digital Quality Consultant at UNGUESS. I'm in UNGUESS since the very beginning of its journey. Imagine that when I joined UNGUESS, we were like 5 people, and now we are more than 100. And I'm also proud to say that I'm working directly with some of the most important companies in the world in order to improve the overall quality of their digital quality, the digital product, with a special focus on user experience optimization. I let Lydia introduce herself.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Good morning, everybody. First of all, let me apologize for my voice. Unfortunately, we're humans. I had the flu the whole week and my voice isn't fully recovered yet. So hopefully you'll still be able to understand me. My name is Lydia Palmi. I'm the head of Insights Lab at Wonderflow. I've been in Wonderflow for 4 years now, leading the Insights Lab team, which is a team that supports our customers, making sure that they make the most out of the voice of the customer and get the most valuable insights. I've always been working in the field of market research, insights and intelligence across different countries and companies, both agencies, global agencies such as Kantar, but also clients such as Red Bull and Tetra Pak. Now, a couple of words about Wonderflow. A couple of words.
Sorry, Lydia, are you able to move to the following slide? No?
No, I'm getting it.
Let me try.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Lorenzo.
All right.
Yeah, as I was saying, just a couple of words about Wonderflow for you, those of you who don't know us. Wonderflow is an AI-powered consumer insight platform that transforms raw customer feedback coming from different sources, such as, for example, online reviews or customer care, for example, and translates these into valuable insights. So ultimately, we collect, process, and analyze voice of the customer coming, again, from diverse sources and translate that into actionable insights. I'll let Lorenzo also give some notes about UNGUESS.
Thank you, Lydia. UNGUESS is the crowd testing platform designed to optimize the quality and experience of any digital product, service, or solution. We have a community composed by more than 50,000 daily engaged testers. And as I said before, and as you can see from this slide, we are working with some of the most important companies in the world. And now let's look at today's agenda. We'll start with why customer feedback is crucial. We will then focus on solicited and then unsolicited feedback. And we'll see also how it's possible to integrate solicited and unsolicited feedback for better decisions. We will close our webinar with takeaways and a session of question and answer. And I hope to receive as many questions as possible at the end of our presentation, at the end of our webinar. So let's start with Lydia's first point, why customer feedback is crucial.
So yes, thank you, Lorenzo. Now, obviously, customer feedback is at the center, is the starting point for every company, organization, or process that wants to be really customer-centric. Customer feedback ultimately allows you to understand what your customers or clients, what they think, what they expect, what they feel, what their needs are. And obviously, it's also essential for you as a business to understand how well you're meeting these customer needs and expectations. Now, there are many different sources from where we can collect customer feedback, from the more traditional surveys and questionnaire, focus groups, diaries, etc., down to relatively newer sources such as social media listening, ratings and reviews, and forums. But ultimately, we can split all these type of sources into 2 buckets, which are solicited feedback and unsolicited feedback. We will spend now some time digging deeper into these two types of feedback and understanding what they are and strengths and weaknesses. So let's have a deeper look with the next slide. So solicited feedback is by nature more structured. So normally, for example, you would have the guide of a questionnaire or the guide of a focus group. It also allows for specific questions. So normally when a company is running a test, has a series of specific questions in mind or areas of interest to cover. And most importantly, which is why it's defined solicited, is initiated by the organization. Unsolicited feedback, conversely, is by nature more unstructured and is spontaneous in the sense that it's initiated by the customer. So normally, nobody is asking a person to call the contact center. If somebody calls contact center, it's because they need something. So that's why it's spontaneous and is initiated by the customer. Both types of feedback have their pros and cons. So we'll see some main ones here. Solicited feedback, as I said, allows to ask specific questions and cover specific topics of interest. Normally, again, when a company is running a study, they have something in mind that they want to cover. And doing a solicited questionnaire or focus group allows you to go through these questions that you have in mind. And again, given the structured nature, is also easier to analyze. The weaknesses are somewhat complementary to the strengths. So it might happen that you only get to know about what you ask for. So again, as you're asking for specific topics or specific feedback, it's hard that aspects that you didn't consider may emerge naturally and spontaneously. There are also some biases that may emerge given the nature of this type of feedback. So customers might feel some pressure to respond if they have a questionnaire, for example, to answer. Some of the aspects might not be so relevant for them, but obviously they would still answer, or they may happen in a natural setting. If we think about a focus group, for example, where we're asking about customer experiences when they're in a situation where that experience is not happening, is a non-natural setting. Unsolicited feedback, conversely, their strengths are the spontaneous nature. So these are all spontaneous opinions that allow for unplanned aspects to emerge. So again, conversely to the solicited one, people may speak about whatever they feel like. And another strength is that normally a feedback is given after a real and recent interaction with a product, a brand, a service in general. So again, you either call customer service when you're experiencing an issue, you leave an online reviews shortly after having purchased the product. When it comes to the weaknesses or some limitations, is again, the first one is the unstructured nature, which makes it very difficult to analyze. Another one is the fact that they can be biased toward extremes. People may tend to give an opinion about something when they have either a very positive or very negative experience. And the other thing is that being scattered through many different sources is also very hard to collect. It doesn't sit in just one place. Now, let's have a further look about solicited and unsolicited feedback and why they are both important. Let's start with the latter, with unsolicited feedback. In this case, there are two main things to bear in mind. The first one is that there's already a ton of unsolicited feedback out there. There's so much existing, so many opinions expressed online, on the internet, and all these opinions, all these verbatims, they have a strong impact on the opinion and the behavior of other people. Now, here we just have some numbers to make it more concrete and to give you some reference. So starting with the left side and the amount of feedback that is already out there. So if we think on Amazon.com alone, so Amazon US, there are more than 12 million reviews. On Reddit, there are around 41 comments written per second. And when it comes to customer care, there's actually no way to estimate the amount of interaction that happen daily because the volume is so huge that there's really no way to give a real estimation of how many customer care interaction exist. Now, all of these data, again, these comments that are already existing, they have a strong impact on other people's behavior. So Basically, everybody, almost 100% of people, before buying something, they do research online. Not just when they buy online, even when they buy in a physical store, they do research online. And ratings and reviews are the most important or the most impactful thing when it comes for a person to decide whether to buy or not. Even more than the price and way more than the recommendations of family and friends. Now, these are just some numbers. If you search online, you will find many different stats, many different researches, all confirming basically the importance of the voice of the customer. But at the end of the day, I think we can all relate to that because none of us nowadays buys anything from booking a restaurant, a holiday, a product, subscribing to a new internet provider without first having read other people's opinions online. So now I'll just give it to Lorenzo to give you some numbers also about user testing.
Thank you, Lydia. Your numbers were really interesting. Now let's have a look at the impact of solicited feedback. There are plenty of studies when we talk about this impact, and I've decided to bring you these two numbers that are quite different but equally convincing, I would say. The first one is about ROI. What would you think about an investment with that percentage of ROI? Well, probably that is a very good one, and I would agree. This is the ROI from user experience investment. In fact, according to Forbes, $1 invested in user experience improvement has an impressive return of $100, leading us to that impressive percentage. That solitary one is the number of bad experience needed to lose a loyal customer forever. In fact, according to PwC, 1/3 of your most loyal customer will go to the competitor in case of a bad UX, a bad user experience. Now you see why it's so important to listen to your customers, to analyze feedback from your customer, because it's directly connected to your business results. And now let's move to the second point of our agenda, a focus on solicited feedback and how to get it and exploit it. First of all, when we talk about solicited feedback, there are plenty of methodologies. We have tried to group them in three main clusters. The first one is exploratory and evaluative. We use exploratory research at the very beginning of a project, and its goal is to better understand the user needs, the expectation, and also the context of usage. The second, the evaluative research, is used when we, for example, have a prototype, and its goal is to better understand if the product is usable without any problem by its potential users. The second is in-person and remote. Remote research had a real boost after the COVID emergency of 2020. It's also easier to organize, more scalable, and less expensive. But in-person research is still something important for researchers when they have to better understand the physical relation, the physical interaction between a product, a digital product, and the person that is testing. Last but not least, attitudinal research and behavioral research. Attitudinal research tells us what users say about a product, but behavioral research tells us what users do with a product or a digital product. But let's try to stay practical. How we can get this solicited feedback in practice? We have seen that there are two main ways from our experience to get this feedback. It's through interviews and usability tests. Interviews are one-on-one conversation where a researcher asks questions regarding a product on topics of interest to gain a deeper understanding of the user's attitude, opinions, needs, and experiences. Usability tests are direct observation sessions of the interaction between a user and the product or service. When we use interviews and when we use usability tests. The first one are used when we want to go in depth, understanding what the user think about a product or a digital product. If we want to study the relation, the interaction between a product and a person, a tester, the second one is what you are looking for. These two are not the only way to test the solicited feedback, to get this solicited feedback. We have really a test for every need: survey, 5-second test, card sorting, diary studies, tree testing, really a lot of different tests for different goals. If you have questions, please feel free to ask at the end of the presentation, because we have a limited amount of time, but we can answer to all of your questions regarding this kind of test. Also, to stay practical, why we have to involve the users early and often, and so when we have to involve. As I said, it's better to involve users as soon as you can and as much as possible. So it's important to involve users early and often. It's not about the frame you're using, waterfall or agile. It's about having this user research session as much as you can. If I have to summarize, I can say that it's better to have more iterative session with a small amount of testers than 1 or 2 big session with a lot of testers, and because it's much more better to have more tests, more feedback, more iterative feedback from users than one single feedback that is composed by the voice of a lot of users. Also, to stay practical, it's important to understand how to formulate the right question. It's important to avoid suggested questions. An example could be, don't ask something like, what do you think about this brand new fantastic feature, but ask something like, what do you think about this feature? Also, it's important to minimize cognitive load. So don't ask too many questions, stay in more or less 30 minutes. It's also important to balance closed and open questions. With closed questions, we'll have metrics that are useful, but with open questions, you could have some interesting suggestions by your customers, your potential clients, your potential users. Also, maintain clarity and simplicity. Don't use too complex language. And last but not least, test the test. So test the questionnaire before launch. If you're launching a questionnaire to 50, 100 people, it's important to test it with a couple of people just to understand if the questionnaire is understandable by everyone who will receive the questionnaire. And now let's focus on unsolicited feedback. I leave it to Lydia.
Yes, thank you. So Lorenzo just explained how user testing works. So let's have a look now at how managing voice of the customer works. So as I just said, unsolicited feedback is already somewhere. It already exists. So obviously the first step is to collect this feedback, which sounds easy, but as we said, it's feedback that is very scattered on many different sources, which are also very diverse. So again, this first step of collecting the information is called scraping and ingestion. Again, as I said, this type of feedback is very unstructured by nature, very diverse. So it's important that during this first phase, there's a lot of processing done to make sure that what is unstructured become more structured and usable. So there's cleaning that needs to be applied, indexing, anonymization, deduplication, normalization. So again, we collect all this data, we process it, and we make sure that it can be stored in a more structured way into our data lake. The second step, the second layer, is the analysis. This is where our NLP analysis, which stands for natural language processing, has its role. So the NLP analysis allows to literally understand what people are saying in their natural language, so sentences that are expressed in a normal way, and translate that into numbers and patterns so that we can make sense of the huge volume of comments, which until you are not able to analyze and process are just comments as such. Finally, having all this data has no point if you cannot access it and manipulate it and use it. So the last step is to push all of this data that we've created through a reporting layer. So it could be done via API. The most common way is for us through our dashboard, which is a user-friendly dashboard where user can access, and the ultimate goal is obviously to extract insights from this data. So if we had to summarize in just a few steps, how we go from unscattered feedback. Lorenzo, if you can go to the next one, please. How we can transform scattered feedback into clear insights. We would say the first step is aggregating the data, again, from the multiple sources that exist where unsolicited feedback is already there. We analyze through AI, and we activate these data through a user-friendly platform to make sure that people can extract insights. So next one, yes, thank you. Now, we spent some time talking about user testing and voice of the customer, solicited and unsolicited. The next point that we want to discuss about is why you should actually consider integrating the two approaches. What is the value of doing that? Now, combining the two approaches, so solicited and unsolicited, voice of the customer and user testing, basically would help elevate the value that lies in customer feedback, because it helps to build on the strengths of both. So these are complementary approaches, as we've seen. So it can really help to build on the strengths of both approaches. So for example, you can use prompted feedback for more structured decisions and targeted actions, and you can use spontaneous feedback for more continuous and unfiltered insights. Now, to make this even more concrete, Lorenzo and I have prepared a couple of scenarios. These are just a couple of examples, but again, we really wanted to make it as concrete as possible of how you could potentially build a flow that integrates the two approaches. So let's start with the first example, with the first scenario. So again, to make it very concrete, imagine you're a cosmetic brand. So you already know the value of ratings and reviews. You already have a solution in place to analyze what customers say through the different online e-commerce platforms. And actually, through this analysis, you have learned that you have some issues with one of your products, an eyeshadow in particular. It's not performing very well. The rating is not good, and there is one particular aspect that customers complain about, which is the fact that the product is not pigmented enough. Which, for those of you who are not eyeshadow users, it means that it doesn't color the eye enough. So clearly, you want to solve this issue. You want your customers to be satisfied. So you work with your R&D department to develop a new formula, a new product. Before launching it to the broad market, you want to run a test. You want to be sure that the new formula is addressing the issue that you detected with the existing product. Now, here's when user testing comes into play. So with user testing and with solutions like UNGUESS, you can set up very quickly a user test. You can define your target. You can send the product to this target, to these people. You can have them try the product. And as we said, you can ask specific questions. So for example, in this case, obviously you would ask different questions, but you would make sure that people give you some feedback about the pigmentation of the product. And in just a matter of 24 hours, you can start collecting the feedback about this new product that is not yet on the market and you want to validate before bringing it to the market. Now, let's assume for this example, the test goes well, customers are happy, the new formula is actually solving the issue that you had in the past, so you launch it to the market, and then you go back to the loop of ratings and reviews. Now, the product is available online, people are buying it on e-commerce platform, they're starting to leave reviews, so you can analyze on a broader scale, not just with the test that you did with some users. On a broader scale, you can understand how the market is reacting to that. Is the product performing better than the old one? Is the issue that you had really fixed, etc. Now, Lorenzo will give us another example about how to integrate the two approaches.
Thank you, Lydia. Let's see the second scenario, launching a flawless new product through R&R and user testing. So let's say that we are working on an interactive prototype development, but before product release, we want to understand if the product is usable without any problem by its potential users. So we launch a user test. It's not possible to analyze rating and reviews because it's a brand new product. So there are no ratings and reviews online. So we proceed with product release, and after release, we analyze R&R, so ratings and review. We collect feedbacks and we focus through user testing on what emerged from R&R, so on the problems that emerged from R&R. The insights are validated or confuted. We fix what we have to fix, and we proceed with the second product release. And then we restart monitoring through R&R the feedback from our users. This is the classic way of launching a flawless new product using also rating and reviews and user tests. So unsolicited feedback and solicited feedback. If I have to summarize, R&R tell us what the problems are, while user testing tell us why they are problems. And we have also seen that if we don't use this combined approach, the quality of the digital product is not enough, is not the same for the users.
So at the end of the day, the idea of combining these two approaches is to allow you to have everything that you need to know about your customers in one place. So solutions like Wonderflow and UNGUESS would allow you to tap into an enormous amount of unsolicited feedback, like from more than 1,000 public sources already out there, and to speak directly to a community of more than 160 million of engaged users. And these with a series of benefits. First of all, time, as this type of analysis can happen, let's say in real time, in a matter of days and not months, not long projects, at a broad scale, at a large scale, because both solutions, they have worldwide coverage. And most importantly, as we said so far, it's an integrated view. So it's really all the feedback that may come from your customer together in one place. Now, this brings us towards the end of our presentation. I'll leave it to Lorenzo to wrap it up, and then we will leave 10 minutes for the questions at the end.
Thank you, Lydia. Let's see our conclusion and takeaways. So we decided to bring 4 main points here. The first one is why customer feedback is crucial, because it's connected to your business results. We have seen it in numbers. It's not our point of view or our opinion. Your business is directly connected with the feedback from your customer. What is solicited feedback? It's feedback that is actively requested from users through surveys, interview, or direct inquiries. Solicited feedback, we have seen there are plenty of methodologies, but the important thing is to listen to your customer as soon as you can and as much as you can. What is unsolicited feedback? It's feedback that the users provide without being asked, such as reviews, social media, comments, or contact center. We have seen that there is plenty of data. We have a lot of ratings and review to analyze. It's all about understanding how to analyze them. Why is combining the two approaches so valuable? It brings together everything you need to know about your customers, making business decisions more sound and simplifying the process. Yes, exactly. When you combine the two approaches, we've seen that the business results are much more better. So we are at the conclusion of our webinar. We can open the question and answer session, but before open the session, here are our contacts. You can contact us for everything. So if you have any question or everything, please feel free. With the QR code, you will see our LinkedIn profile, so feel free also to add us on LinkedIn. And now we hope to receive a lot of questions. Thank you very much for your attention.
So Lorenzo, I'm checking the Q&A. There's a first question that I think it's for me. How can we trust the data considering the existence of fake reviews and similar? Now, this is an interesting question, and we get it quite often. So a couple of things here. The first point is, and we briefly touched upon these during the webinar, any type of customer feedback analysis has its own biases, right? So as we said, for example, if you run a focus group, there are bias that are given or due to the nature of the interaction. So you're bringing a group of people in an unnatural setting and you're asking them to think about whatever it is the topic. Questionnaire is the same. So you're forcing them to choose among some options when maybe none of those options is actually what customer think really. So again, every type of customer analysis has its own bias. That said, fake reviews, yes, they exist. To be honest, nowadays they are becoming less and less popular in the sense that all platforms they have strict rules in place in order to avoid fake reviews. So it's becoming harder and harder nowadays. Really write a review on something if you haven't really purchased a product or a service. Some of these same platform they even have a specific way of understanding which reviews are verified or not. If we think about Amazon, you are able to see which reviews are verified or not. We also get the question a lot around incentivized reviews, because this is a common practice, especially in some industries, to incentivize the number of reviews. But also in this way, so also with incentivized review, it's possible always to identify which reviews are incentivized or not. And when you run an analysis, you can always check if the reviews that you're looking at are verified, are incentivized or not, so that you can get a better idea of the solidity of the data that you're analyzing. And I see more questions coming in. Is it a good idea to solicitate a customer that left a bad rating with an interview or a user test? Is this breach possible? I'll start with my answer. Sorry, I just noticed I skipped one question. I'll come back to that. I'll start with my my answer, and then Lorenzo can jump on it. I think so. It's actually the value of that. So if somebody's leaving you a bad review and you want to explore further and understand better what they're saying, that's actually the point. So really using user testing and interviews to go more into the deeper why of why somebody's giving you a bad rating. So that's exactly the whole point, the combination of the two approaches. Again, Lorenzo, I don't know if you want to add something on this.
Yes, I agree with you, Lydia. And I would say that I prefer bad reviews, or I would say people who are critical with the product, because we can start from the criticism and develop a better product based on what's wrong with the interaction between the user and the digital product. So we've seen also that when we come to user testing, it's much more better to have people who can give also negative feedback regarding the product, because with that negative feedback, we are able to change directly something. With positive feedback, again, it's something positive for us, having understanding the point of strength of the digital product, but still, I would say that it's even better to have a lot of negative feedbacks, because it's easier to understand what's wrong and fix what's it's better to fix as soon as possible.
Thank you, Lorenzo. So another question, can I create a buyer persona on Wonderflow and then generate a survey and then through UNGUESS target a profile panel and run a panel in just a few hours or days? This would allow us to close the loop. Yes, absolutely. So looking at online ratings and reviews, you can get an idea of who your end buyer is. So this is part of the analysis that we run on based on online comments. So identifying who is your buyer, how they use your product. So you can define your profile, define your target, and then again, Lorenzo can speak more about this. UNGUESS panel has a lot of information about their panelists, so you can come up with a very highly profiled target of people that you want to interview or run a user test. But yes, absolutely, you can understand who your user is through online ratings and reviews, and then apply that to build a target panel of people in UNGUESS. And again, Lorenzo, if you want to add something.
Naturally, I agree with you. This is a question, I think, from a professional, because it's a very specific and very good question. And yes, just to add a bit of context regarding our crowd, we have really a lot of people in our crowd, in our community, and we know everything about the people who joined our community. And so if we need a specific cluster of people, yes, we can do it. So Lydia will help us to define, and I will find for you the people you're looking for in order to test with users that are your real potential users, and not people who are not the people who will use in reality your product.
Lorenzo, I have another question. I think this one is directly for you. Maurizio says it's great to ask clients for feedback. Sorry, I'm translating because it's in Italian. But is there a risk for them to get tired of it? Is there a limit on the amount of user testing and involvement that we can ask to these users?
It's an interesting question. I would say that there is no limit because we can change the users. So we understand who are the potential users, and then we don't have to ask always the same person for feedback. But we understand the type of person, and then we can ask to different people. This is why we have an enormous amount of people in our community, because it's true that we can't ask too many times for at the same person the same feedback, because also there is the fresh eye approach thing to keep in mind. So if we ask a person about his feedback or a feedback regarding a product for the first time, it's one thing. But if we ask the second, the third, the third time, they will lose, or she will lose, the fresh eye approach. So it's true that we can't ask too many times at the same person a feedback, but there is no limit because we have a lot of people to ask feedback, and so we will change the panel, we will change the users, and we will test with different people. I hope to have answered to your question. If not, feel free to ask more.
One more question for, I guess, both of us. How can organizations maintain an ongoing dialogue with their customers to keep improving decision-making and testing methods over time? Again, I'll start. Lorenzo, obviously, add on top of that. I think nowadays there are like so many ways and so many touch points with our customers. Again, if I think about voice of the customer, obviously customer care contact center is a direct point of touch with your customers, but even online ratings and reviews, or like reviews on different platforms, you can engage with that. So if somebody's leaving a bad review, you can actually engage with with those users. So there are like so many diverse touch points that allows you through the whole customer journey to be engaged with your customer. And to the point of testing methods over time, I mean, obviously we work both in the field of artificial intelligence. Nowadays, really with artificial intelligence, there are like so many more methods coming up, as we said, compared especially to the more traditional ones in the past, that allow for very diverse type of testing. So like also experimenting with the with consumer feedback, with customer feedback, across, again, all the different touch points that you have with your customers. So again, I think leveraging and making sure that all these different touch points are managed throughout the whole customer journey is key, because again, it allows you to have this ongoing interaction when the interaction is happening with the customer, so when it's relevant in that moment. Lorenzo, not sure if you want to add something as well.
Your answer was really complete. I just want to add that iteration is key. So iterate as much as possible and do as many tests, as many interactions as possible, because it's much more better, as I said before, to have a lot of interaction with a small amount of people when we talk about user testing. But I'm sure that the same is more or less for also unsolicited feedback, sorry, than having just one big moment with your clients, asking them for feedback, because iteration, we have seen that it's the key for keeping a contact with your customer.
Last question that we have on the list. Do you have more example of this combined approach in digital products for B2B or B2C, based on real cases you have managed? So I'll quickly chip in, and probably Lorenzo has more to say on this. This is a new approach, let's say, that we're starting. So we don't have so many examples yet, like real tests. But UNGUESS especially, they have a wealth of knowledge in the digital products area, which can be easily combined again with ratings and reviews. For example, if we think about applications, there are online ratings and reviews about applications as well. So that's when the two things can be combined. But again, I'll leave it to Lorenzo because really the knowledge of UNGUESS about digital products is quite broad.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you for the question. It's really interesting because it's extremely practical. And we have a couple of case studies, I would say 3-4 case studies. We can't show them now. I can speak about the client, but again, if you want, I'm asking to the person who asked the question, we are at disposal in order to show you numbers and figures, because we've tried this approach. It's quite new, as Lydia said, but we've tried it with some clients, and the numbers are really interesting. And so we have our own numbers to show, both in B2C and B2B. And so I'm more than happy to show our numbers to the person who asked. And I have to say that the number that is probably the most interesting one is about ratings. We've seen that as regard digital application, we've seen a boost in ratings. For e-commerce, we've seen an interesting result regarding the ROI, so the conversion rate. So they invest in testing and analyzing feedback and improving the product. There is an improvement also of the business results. And these are the two main goals that we were able to reach with our clients. But if you wanted to have a closer look to our numbers, I'm happy to focus with you.
Thank you, Lorenzo. One last question that came in, and I think we have to close because we're running out of time afterwards. How can businesses balance insights from user testing with their customer feedback when the two sources seem to be conflicting? Interesting question. I guess it may happen that you get different results. Probably the thing to investigate is how you're getting this feedback. So for example, if like with the examples that Lorenzo was giving before, maybe the way you ran the user testing was not done properly and you bias the answers in a certain direction. I think the key thing in that case would be, again, as we said, these solutions would allow anyway for you to get information in a quick time, in a fast time. So possibly is to run iterations and loop of studies to, let's say, guide the information or guide the search to really understand where is this discrepancy coming from. So again, maybe you're actually not comparing two right things. So you're getting a feedback about something from the voice of the customer, and from user testing is actually something different, or again, the answers might be biased. But both solutions are so agile that they would allow you again to iterate and get to the point of why do you have this discrepancy, and is it actually discrepancy or noise? We're actually looking at two different things.
Perfect answer, Lydia. Thank you. I just want to add that when we run user testing, we can make mistakes for sure. For example, if we are not able to identify in the right way the buyer or user persona, we can run user test without the right audience. And so this could create a conflict. To be honest, working with Wonderflow or working with unsolicited feedback helps us a lot in understanding better the buyer persona. Also working closely with the client, is the client that tell us who is the buyer persona. But I think that if we are able to understand in the right way who is the buyer persona and we iterate, this problem exists, but it's not so common and it's easy to mitigate. Okay, we have actually no more questions and we're
perfectly on time, I would say. So personally, again, I would like to thank everybody for joining this webinar and attending it. We are, as Lorenzo already said, at your disposal for any more information, any other questions that you might have. So again, thanks everybody for attending, and I wish you a great rest of the day.
Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.